Hello, welcome to the THC Show. I'm your host, Neil Magnuson. This is a show where we talk about truth, hope, and change. We've been doing that for over 3 years now. We're well into our 4th year, probably almost halfway through at this point. Much more importantly than that, though, we're at the 6th year mark of the CSP, and we're going to talk about that in just a minute. On the show today, we are going to have, of course, Glenn Wells from Cannabis.ca. We're in the colors here because we're a week away from the Can of Love event at the Art Gallery here in Vancouver. Put cannabis and you got love. That's it. You know, you get one, you get the other. That's how that works. So Can of Love at the Art Gallery. We'll talk about that. We'll visit the Healing Wave CSP RV that we've been calling home for well over 2 years now, and update you on all of that because this is actually a big day for us. 6 years of operating the CSP in this neighborhood. That's incredible to say the least, and we'll give our opinions on that as we move forward. Also going to talk a little bit about the other CSPs that are operating out there and the other people doing good stuff. But yeah, 6 years of the CSP. It was 6 years ago, right about today, that I first went to Vandu. Prior to that, there had been some lead up to it as I presented to City Council and the VPD and the Vandu and got several dispensaries, the Medicinal Cannabis Dispensary and Weeds, Glass and Gifts, and a few others on board. And it was this day 6 years ago when I walked into Vandu and said, well, I got a bunch of boxes, I guess I'll set up tables, and that's what we started doing. 6 years, so much dispensed and so much ignored. This should be a happy day, but in my mind it's a stupid day. It's always a stupid day when you've demonstrated something successfully. As an activist, that's what you do if you can. If you have a point to make, the best way to make that point is to demonstrate that what you're talking about is the truth. That's why we do 420s and other protests where we have farmers markets set up. We demonstrate during those times what it is that we're talking about, what it is that we're demanding. And we have been demonstrating with the CSP for the past 6 years exactly what it is we're demanding. And it is stupid as hell that 6 years later, we still don't have any sort of government support in what we're doing here other than we're still doing it. I mean, I guess if the government really wanted to, they could make us go away. They've tried several ways, but they haven't actually clamped down, because if they did that, well, then there'd be a much bigger kerfuffle than there was over the last few attempts to shut us down and the other things that have happened here. So we maintain some sort of a game with them, a little bit of a standoff, a little bit of a checkmate, where we're doing the right thing, we're doing it the right way, we're doing it to demonstrate that it works and to get approval, and it's just taking an incredibly long time for that to happen because of government corruption, which has clearly been demonstrated as well by the government that is in a parallel demonstration to us. As we demonstrate just how effective cannabis can be, especially in the form of high-dose edibles in helping people with their medical conditions, but primarily for us here on the downtown east side and with the Cannabis Substitution Program, we're talking about helping people get off of opioids, get through withdrawal, substitute the use of those other substances with cannabis. That's what we're demonstrating here. And the government on their side, they've been demonstrating for all this time just how, first of all, inept and ignorant they are, and that's what they're trying to pull off, is that they're just inept and ignorant. But really what it is they're extremely corrupt, and they're demonstrating that all the time. Most recently, we got a letter from Health Canada after our application was put in almost 2.5 years ago, and it was in response to me writing them a letter and saying, hey, it's been almost 2.5 years and we're really stifled and handcuffed in our ability to do what it is that we're doing so well and so profoundly for this neighborhood, and what's going on. And so they sent me back a letter. Apparently there's a new person in charge now, and this person has sent me a letter saying that, well, it's still under review, and that's about that for that. Be patient, you know. Well, being patient is difficult for me in these circumstances. I mean, certainly I'm not impatient enough to do something drastic and radical or walk away or something that's going to disrupt what it is that we're able to do here. I am going to be patient in that we're going to continue doing what we're doing while at the same time trying to figure out exactly all the things that we can do to try to move this situation forward so that we're no longer illegal, facing charges, having court money and tax dollars wasted upon us instead of supporting us, all of those things. So, you know, 6 years, wow. I mean, it rolls off the tongue, but it doesn't sink all the way through into the brain right away. It's like 6 years is a very long time. That's more than a half a decade ago. That, you know, we had this epidemic of overdose deaths that was deemed a public health emergency in a neighborhood that I'd had some involvement in for quite a while before that, with the Herb School here right at Main and Hastings, and working on many different demonstrations and projects with VANDU, the Vancouver Area Network of Drug Users. 6 years ago, it was a crisis here. It was all the talk on the radio and on the newspapers and all over town. It was what the politicians were talking about. It's what was going on. There was a whole bunch of people being found dead. Dead in the streets, dead in their homes, mostly dead by themselves in their buildings. Dead because somehow the supply of opioids that these people had been routinely taking due to their, no fault of their own addiction in many cases, was compromised somehow by a much, much stronger opioid that had gotten into the supply. And no easy fix, apparently. No easy way to figure out what the source is and where it's coming from. It seems to be everywhere. It seems to be in everything. And what are we going to do? It was deemed a public health emergency. Close to my heart, because I'd already spent quite a bit of time down here operating the Herb School, working with VANDU, learning about the situation down here, learning about the people, learning about the stigmatization. Stigmatization is so real. It's so real, it's so horrible. Because this drug war doesn't make any sense. When you look at it, and the government tries to justify the fact that they're going to take an enormous amount of our precious tax dollars, and they're going to use our police resources and the criminal law and do everything the best they can to annihilate cannabis. Marijuana. The devil's herb. Just flowers. Just dried flowers. I'm sure for those of you who are in the modern world and have smell-o-vision, you'll be able to know what I'm talking about here. There you go. Oh, it's not April 1st today. No. I tried that a long time ago. No, you can't smell it. You know, through your TV there, probably, and as far as I know. But, you know, they ran this horrible, horrible campaign, and it's now in its 100th year of demonizing the most beneficial and least deadly plant on the planet. It makes no sense. So when they're doing something that makes no sense, there's got to be things that happen as a result of that. Because it's an upside down world at that point. And if you're upside down over here, well, you better be upside down over there too, or the two aren't going to cancel themselves out. They needed scapegoats. So yeah, all those people that are the obvious problematic drug users, those that struggle with addiction, who can't get through withdrawal, who are constantly on waiting lists for rehab and treatment, well, those people are why we need to wipe out marijuana. That's what they said. Smoke a joint and you're a heroin addict the next afternoon. It was just an excuse, of course, but it stigmatized a whole population of people. It drove it way underground. It made it even way more dangerous than it already was. Back 6 years ago, what was happening is that the effects of the overprescription of opioids by the medical profession was showing its ugly head in major, major ways. So many people from so many different walks of life that were then now stuck on drugs that they couldn't get off of. Because that's where the money was for the doctors. More realistically, that's where the money was for the pharmaceutical companies. They just made it lucrative enough for the doctors that was their easy way out for anybody that had anything to do with pain. And they were prescribing that stuff for people with a bump on the head. And then people get addicted to it because it's a type of drug that has a method of infecting the body where it needs to be replenished all the time as it builds more and more neural networks to be fed with each new dose. And then you try to stop and you can't because the pain is unbearable. It's like going through hell for 4, 5, 6 days. Putting it mildly. That's what they say. Must be the case. Must be the case. It must be really, really hard to quit that stuff. Or a lot more people would be doing it. But they can't. Not easily, anyway. So they stigmatized all the people that were visible and said, okay, look at those people. They're obvious drug addicts. They're the ones who are breaking into your homes and your cars. It all starts with marijuana. So we got to put so much of our money into wiping out marijuana. And we all know that that was just a bunch of bullshit to protect their interests. That the whole attempt to prohibit cannabis is nothing but a way for other corporate interests to thrive in a marketplace where they don't have to compete with cannabis, one of the greatest plants on the planet for producing biomass of use. No question there. It's been a horrible war. It's had some horrible results. Stigmatizing the hard drug users, blaming marijuana for that, arresting so many people, giving people criminal records, young people starting out their lives, so many young people in North America, Canada, that had to start their lives out with criminal records because of drugs. And the drug was primarily marijuana. That's the number one thing that police arrest people for and people get charged for, and that's the number one thing that's before our courts. Not so much those other drugs. They don't really care so much about those other drugs, and you wonder why. Those are the ones you should care about, aren't they? That is, after all, the end result that you want to stop by stopping marijuana use, because marijuana use leads to these other harder drugs. You should do something about the other harder drugs, shouldn't you? Shouldn't there be a fair amount of police resources put into finding out who's dealing those drugs? Who's stepping our young people up from cannabis to cocaine, etc., which happens all the time when you put a plant into a criminal world and call it a drug like every other drug, and they're all just drugs, and you're just a criminal. If you use one, you use them all. Why not? All of this has contributed to why we have the horrible drug problem that we have. It's rampant and it's everywhere, and we have no idea. Good people from good families out here on the streets, under hoods, hunched over, swollen hands and feet, burning pieces of tinfoil, and then passing out on the street. Dying in some cases. Miserable for sure. To live like that must be misery. I see it all the time. I see it in their eyes, what's left of them. It's a huge problem. 6 years ago, I had an answer to this problem. There was an answer to this problem. Myself and many others went to City Hall and told them, don't take edibles out of dispensaries. I held up a pack of high-dose edibles and said, this is the real safe supply for people. Ignored. 6 years of demonstrating and 6 years of being ignored. There's no words for it. I always try to come up with a word. Horrible, outrageous, criminal. It's so wrong. It's so wrong. So our time here is not so much a celebration of 6 years as it is, oh my God, how stupid is this? We're still here waiting, under threat, under siege, unsupported by a government who claims through lying lips regularly on the television screen about how they're trying to do what they can for the opioid crisis. They're going to establish a safe supply for people of those very opioids and things that are compromised. Sure, that's a good step. I'm all in favor of a safe supply of whatever it is human beings are wanting to access. Why shouldn't there be a safe supply? It's stupid that they have to ask for it, isn't it? This whole thing is so stupid. I hate stupidity. I do not harbor much goodwill towards stupid things. I don't put up with it very much. I'm the guy that's got to stand up and say something. Hey, this is stupid. Well, this is stupid and people are getting hurt and dying. So it's way more than just stupid. This is really stupid. So here in BC, we got a new experiment now. People 18 and over can possess up to 2.5 grams. That's a fair bit of a powder. Of crack cocaine and crystal meth and heroin and fentanyl. I'm not sure you're allowed to have 2.5 grams of non-government marijuana if you didn't grow it yourself. But 18-year-olds who are not yet able to vote, but even more crazy and stupid than that, they can't even buy a beer. So they're becoming young adults. They want to go and experiment and try to be an adult. And their legal option is hard drugs before even alcohol. Now, I'm not a fan of alcohol, don't get me wrong. And I think alcohol is a very hard drug. And I don't think it should be glorified or sought after or something that brings you of age. But just the stupidity of it all. It's stupid because it started out upside down in the first place. It started out with people pursuing their own interests at the expense of the public through forcing and somehow implementing government policy criminalizing the use of cannabis. I've been saying these things for so long, and I keep trying to find new ways to say it that doesn't make it just the same thing and make it boring. We should have been on to different plots for the THC show other than the quest for a low barrier access community cannabis store while we wait for permission from the government to do that. This was not supposed to be going on right now. I was not supposed to be having to repeat myself over and over again. I was not supposed to be having a celebration of the 6 years of the CSP and not celebrating really because it doesn't feel like a celebration because we haven't gotten anything yet. We've been stuck treading water in the same spot for an awful long time now. We should be celebrating. We should have had a great celebration when it was announced that our license was in the mail. We should have had another grand opening of the store. We should have had local politicians and lots of other people joining us for some nice cake and balloons and who knows what else we might have had here. We should have had all that long time ago. It didn't really take that long. It took too long, but it hasn't taken 6 years because after 2.5 years, City Council decided that what we had demonstrated was enough for them in Vancouver here. They're not the ones who are delinquent and not giving us a license. They're just the ones who are using the federal government as their excuse as to why they haven't given us one yet. If the federal government's delinquent, and it's 419 now, no, it never should have taken 6 years. And still, we haven't got it. We should be having a big celebration. But instead, we're going to celebrate how stupid things are and talk about that instead. It should be talking about the success of having people using high-dose edibles and the science behind that and all the different things we've learned because we're a real registered mainstream group that's been doing it now legally for a while and we've got all these different measures in place to do it right. But no, it's not. What it is basically 420. And that means Glenn Wells is going to come in and join us for a little bit of brevity, which is always well needed. How you doing, Glenn?
Good, how are you? Happy 420.
Happy 420. Look, there it is. There it is. We got the 420 going on there.
There you go.
And, you know, we do have a little bit of cake. We have stupid cake.
Okay.
There's some stupid cake.
Well, we're still here 6 years later, right?
Yeah. There are some things to celebrate for sure.
Yeah, you're still fighting.
But, yeah.
They haven't beat you down.
Yeah.
Right?
That's grasping for straws, though. You know that,
You don't
right?
have a ball and chain on you, and you're doing breaking rocks at a prison or anything like that. So, yeah, there's lots of sad.
Touch wood on that, you know. Not yet.
Cheers, everybody.
I'm going to have a bite of this.
Yeah, this is going to be good. I'm going to have a bite of this for the new teeth, too. Yeah. That's good.
Yeah.
I was always supposed to eat cake after we smoke.
We can do that. Takers like smoking weed.
Is it?
Yeah.
All right.
You can do it before or after, and it's always appropriate.
Okay. All right.
I have to have a drink.
I got some too.
It's a little dry.
Is it?
Did you think that?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Maybe it's been there on the shelf for a while.
You never know.
You
Could
never
be.
know.
They might have made this
Well-
roll a while ago.
I have had a couple of pieces. I'm going to smoke now.
Me too.
I love my new case.
Yeah, it's
Thank you very much.
Anonymous
Oh,
admirer.
yeah, well, yeah. Good
Anonymous.
friend. Very, very, very,
Anonymous
very good
admirer.
friend. Yeah, and they watch.
It's a little dry like my humor.
After they've done work, though.
But I had a celebratory bite, but I don't feel much like celebrating. It's kind of like when you're playing hockey and you're behind 3 or 4 goals in the game, and then you score a goal. A little bit of celebration, got a little bit closer, but you're not going to be jumping all over the ice.
Unless you score
It's
2
your
more.
Unless it's your 500th goal or something. Or,
Yeah.
You see the All-Star game? Speaking of hockey, 'cause that's what we do on
I
this
know
show.
it.
This is the NHL, I mean the THC show.
I know our guy got the hardest shot.
Elias Peterson.
Yeah.
Elias Peterson with the hardest shot.
Yeah.
And probably the biggest brain. He's such a smart player out there. Oh my God, he is a superstar. He's
Good.
going to be a beast.
Yeah.
We need to get him under contract for a long time. But you know, in that game, in the final couple of minutes of the final game, by that time it was out of reach. The Atlantic was going to win the damn thing, and that's all because of Alex Ovechkin.
Oh, wow, eh?
Alex Ovechkin scored a goal, as he typically does at these things.
Yeah.
And then he taunted Vasilevsky. He went, So Vasilevsky and the Atlantic team scored the next 10 goals in a row without getting scored on.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Oh man, and
that's
so
good. That's
well,
good.
they say that they try to hype it up like there's $1 million on the line. You know,
yeah.
these 11 players are gonna swap or gonna share $1 million. So what does that work out to?
100,000 each.
No,
Oh,
900,000.
No, 900,000. Okay.
No, not 90,000.
90. No, like
90,000.
100,000
Yeah, it's
times
90,000
10
would be a
1
million.
million.
Yeah, and there's 11 guys.
Oh, there's one guy?
Yeah, so
maybe
it's
one guy. Maybe
roughly-
one guy didn't chip in.
He's gonna just give this to the rest. You know, they roughly get $90,000.
Yeah, about 90,000, yeah.
So, what do these players make for a season?
Oh, millions.
Many millions.
Many, yeah.
These guys are between like in the 6 to 14 range, mostly 8s and 10s in there.
Yeah.
So if you're making $8.2 million a year, how much are you making for every hockey game you play?
Oh, I don't know. That's
$100,000.
Oh, is it?
$100,000.
Oh, wow, you figured it out already.
Yeah.
Ah, see.
So they're
I didn't get
normally
any
making
show
100
notes.
grand.
I had to do math today. So
They're taking a cut in pay
Yeah.
to play the All-Star game, and I'm sure they're happy to do that. They have a lot of fun, and it's only well, it depends how long you go because
well,
they
no,
play.
it wouldn't be. Well, it's not really a cut and pay because they got
Depending
paid
on
for
who you
the
are.
contract. It's extra pay because it's an extra game.
No, but they're playing a hockey game
Yeah.
for just under $100,000.
Yes.
And most of those guys typically play at one hockey game
Yeah.
and get paid more than
But it's an
$100,000.
extra 100,000.
Oh, sure, it's some. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, oh,
it's
yeah.
not-
I'm just
it's
saying
not
for playing a game of hockey, they're taking a little bit of a
I
cut and
take
pay.
$100,000 to play a fucking game of hockey.
Wouldn't we all?
Shit, man! I don't care. Score me if you want.
Give me just the All-Star game. I'll take a cut and pay. And then you look at how much time they're actually on the ice. You know, it's like
60 minutes,
wow,
right?
a third maybe.
Yeah, wow.
Typically.
So,
Wow.
10 minutes of the whole game, maybe 15 minutes.
No, 15 to 20 minutes
Yeah.
typically per player gets to play there. So yeah,
Wow, eh?
yeah, pretty good. They did a study recently on NFL during a 60-minute game. During a 60-minute game, how long is the ball actually in play?
Oh, I don't know.
Not very long, apparently.
Not very long, eh?
About 11 minutes.
Wow, eh?
Yeah, about 11
And
minutes.
they pay somebody to do that.
Crazy stuff for sure. But anyway, in that game,
Yeah.
when the game was out of reach, so now there's only a couple minutes left.
Yeah.
Vasilevsky's shut the door. The Atlantic is winning the thing. They're up by a few goals. 6 goals were scored in 1 minute and 13 seconds.
From the opposing team?
Well, back and forth.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's quick, eh?
That's hard to do, I think.
Yeah.
You got to be a skilled professional to do
Well, it
that.
is the All-Star game.
It is, yeah.
And it's All-Star, right?
I know. last night in the Canucks game. Did you see that?
No, but I saw the score. We lost.
Well, what happened was everything was going along just fine.
Yeah, like usual.
It's 1-1 sometime towards the end of the third period, and then New Jersey scored.
Yeah.
And then New Jersey scored. And then New Jersey scored. 3 goals in 50 seconds.
Oh my God.
3 goals in 50 seconds.
Wow, what is it with the Canucks? Wow.
And they got it into overtime.
And they
they came back.
So we got a point.
They got a point. That's too bad,
Yeah, we got a point.
unfortunately.
Yeah.
But they gained a point in the standings because Arizona got 2. So they're one closer to that bottom 10 spot that they're looking for.
Oh, okay.
Well, they're not looking up. They're looking down.
Yeah, they want to look
This
down.
is a race to the bottom.
Yeah, yeah.
They're not going to tank. I mean, NHL players don't tank, and they couldn't tank if they wanted to, probably. Although most of them tanked in the All-Star game. You could see that, the effort. You know, taking a cut and paying on if they were choosing to do that. Anyway, but that's hockey.
That's
I don't know
hockey,
about that.
yeah.
We get to have another season for the Vancouver team of racing to the bottom. We deserve compensation.
We do?
As fans of the Canucks. No, I meant as cannabis consumers.
Oh, okay.
Both of those things.
Yeah.
Both of those things, except one is worse than the other. One's not the same as the other. The one that's not so bad is still really bad.
Yeah.
You know? 52 years. 52 years of my life. Since right at the age when you are, when you start to get excited and aware about hockey. Right? So I'm 12 years old. The Vancouver Canucks get a hockey team. I couldn't have been more thrilled. I don't know. What is the perfect age for your city to get a hockey team for you to be a lifelong fan? Probably around 12.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or maybe 6.
Those are bright kids. Those are brighter kids. You know, I wasn't that bright. I was a little later in the. But you know, a 12-year-old, you know, can really get into something like that, and I certainly did. Like, holy smokes, our team gets a National Hockey League team. My cousin was playing for Chicago Blackhawks. I was already a big hockey fan because of the NHL, because I'm Canadian.
Yeah.
Had no choice. So for me, I'm kind of that maybe I'm the test case for whether we could sue the Canucks or not. You know?
Yeah.
all these years later, here I am. I was baited and hooked long into it. I was lied to consistently by general managers who should have known better. They knew they were selling a bill of goods to the populace here. They knew those players were going skiing and not working on their abs. They knew it. But they still told us, you know, we're going to win a cup this year, folks.
What kind of compensation do you want?
Oh, money's the best usually,
money,
but a Stanley Cup for Vancouver. They should just let us win. Everybody just get out of the way, let us win one. Then Toronto can have one because they're not quite as bad off as us. But
I already figured out how the Canucks will outsmart you with the Stanley Cup for Vancouver. They'll put a fucking statue of the Stanley Cup in Vancouver.
they'll say they'll put a cup in Stanley Park.
Yeah,
and say there it is. It's a Stanley Cup. But they're not going to tell the truth, and that's my point. We've been deceived here by a bunch of hockey people who have taken the money, lived a good life, enjoyed the wet West Coast.
West Coast, yes.
Better than the frozen coast, and you know the other friends of ours.
But then
you know,
you would be starting something, and it wouldn't just be hockey. There would be football people that want their money back, and baseball people who would want their money back because their team wasn't winning, right?
I can't think about any of that at this moment.
Well,
you know?
come on, you got it. You got to get outside the box now. There's too many of us who think inside the box, right?
I think you're right, Glenn. You've convinced me that you know, we'd probably want our money back every time we go there and they lose.
Yes,
you know?
exactly.
Because of the hype they create ahead of it.
Yeah.
But you know, for me, it's been 52 years of this hype.
You got it.
So I'm abandoning it.
Okay.
I'm only going after the government for cannabis prohibition.
There you go.
Now I got a case for that. There I was, a youngster, born just at that period of time. You know, I kind of missed the hippies a little bit, right? They were I was a little bit behind, and also in my development because my parents were right-wing Christians, so they kept me sheltered.
Yeah.
So there I was.
There's no hippie stuff in your own.
I was naive. I was vulnerable, and it happened. Like, how could it not?
Did you have a TV?
Yeah, we did. When I was like 12 years old
You
again.
see the hippies protesting against the war and
We
stuff
watched
like that?
The Big Show on Friday night, which was some sort of a black and white movie.
Yeah.
And Walt Disney on Sundays.
Yeah, of course,
and
Walt
then,
Disney
And then
Sundays.
years later, it was into cartoons on Saturdays and things
really?
like that.
Oh, okay.
But no, I didn't see much hippies. I was pretty sheltered. It wouldn't have mattered if I'd have seen them. I mean, my parents would have said they were long-haired, smelly people that didn't want to work.
Yeah.
You know? And they were. But that's another story. But the whole thing is that I came along when all of that had just sort of happened, and I was young and impressionable, and because of my circumstances, I would argue in court that I had little choice. I was going to experiment with cigarettes and alcohol and cannabis and the other substances. It was just laid out for me like that.
Yeah.
And so cannabis is illegal.
Yeah.
You know? Alcohol, well, everybody drank alcohol.
Yeah.
Nobody cared about that. I mean, you know, my mom and dad didn't because they were right-wing Protestant Christians, but my mom's brothers did, and you know, same on all around me, all my friends, everybody. You know, their kitchens were all full of beer bottles. You remember this, eh?
Yeah.
I mean, you go to anybody's house, they're all sitting around.
The kids go get you more beer from the fridge so that they can watch their games or whatever they're doing.
100%. It was an alcohol-based country when I was a young person, for sure.
Yeah.
And now I'm born into this time and this situation where it's just going to be something that I'm going to do. You know, at some point, there was no escaping it. You know, growing up in East Vancouver, then being moved out to Surrey, all of my peers, all of the friends, there was no sheltering me when I was 15 years old anymore.
No more. Yeah.
You know,
you're out there.
I was going to try cannabis. And then again, that's not fair.
Yeah.
Because cannabis is great.
Yeah, I love cannabis.
You love it as soon as you understand the effects of it. You're like, wow, I want this in my life forever.
Even the guy at Windmill in Abbotsford, where I bought my car there, he was a cannabis fan, but now because he's dealing with the public as a salesman, it's just weekends only.
The stigmatization is still there.
Yes, but it's weekends only, he says, right? So that's good. Let's go. But yeah, I told Windmill on I'd say the name and give him a shout. They give me a good deal on a nice car and quickly.
Nice. So the story is because I don't know if you wanted to mention this. It's personal, private, maybe.
Matter.
But your car died.
It's just all of a sudden died.
Built-in obsolescence. Apparently, the timing belt after 9 years, it's had, or however many miles, I guess it's gone.
292,000 kilometers.
Just destroys the engine.
Yep.
Driving down the street, like you think you got a decent car. It looks beautiful. It's only 9 years.
You're putting along, and then all of a sudden, power went out, and I slowly drifted into the curb. And I turned the engine, and it just went
nothing, eh?
Nothing. And I called my guy at Bill at Fountain Tire in Mission, and he says, "Sounds like it's the timing." I said, "That's it." He said, "You're going to need a new motor."
Wow.
But see, it was kind of ironic with this car because I went and saw this car about 3 or 4 weeks before, and I'd already gave my name into it. So now I had a reason to get a car, and I called Jeremy and
that's what I think. The universe just bumped you up a notch.
Yeah,
and you had something to do with that with your own visualizations.
It came in threes: new teeth, haircut, car.
Nice.
Right there you go.
That's how they go. So anyway, back to my court case here.
Yeah.
I feel like. I was at an impressionable age. I had no choice. It was just circumstance, and I found myself using cannabis. Now I'm a criminal.
So am I.
But, you know, for me at 15, 16, 17, 18 even, I was in Surrey. I was with other criminals. I was already on a bad track. Although I got to say, by that time, because of my cousin's involvement in hockey, I'd sort of gotten onto a bit of a different path. But not with respect to using cannabis.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't follow with many of the people that I went to school with out in Surrey that became hardened criminals and hard drug users. And, you know, there was a lot of bad stuff that happened out there in Surrey. It was a nasty,
I lived in Surrey during the
you would have had to have lived it to know it.
Yeah.
But for those who went to Mary Jane Shannon, you know, eventually in North Surrey, and they changed the name of that now to Guildford Park, and I don't think it's anything like it was before. They changed the name. They fired all the staff. They repainted everything. They eventually built a whole new school because of the culture that had evolved there.
Yeah.
It was out of control for sure. There was gangs in every school and fighting and all kinds of stuff going on. A lot of drug use. A lot of bad stuff going on. And thankfully, hockey pulled me out of that,
Yeah.
and I blame hockey for that, or I thank hockey for that.
No, you take them. Yeah.
But cannabis was a big part of things as well.
Yeah.
So I stayed on using cannabis, while I grew up and all the rest of it. It became not something that I did as a counterculture way to get high on the weekends, but something that I used because I could tell when I needed to smoke a joint. When life was getting hard, when I would have anxiety about different things, I would really turn to smoking cannabis, and it really became a medicine of choice to go to, like any antidepressant or having a cup of coffee or the things that people do to address their moods that are not really what they want. Cannabis was a go-to for me, and it had to be because of the nature of cannabis and because of my life experience. So my point is, I've spent all of that part of my life, ever since I was 15 years old and on, outside the law, because of the law, not because I'm a bad person. In fact, that's what I'm saying here. These laws were wrong. They were wrong way back in the beginning. We didn't just all of a sudden decide that cannabis had changed its nature and now we can have legal stores, thousands of them across Canada, and government making money on it. It was always something that there should have been stores for, and people should have been able to go and get. And then I wouldn't have been a criminal my whole life, and I wouldn't have had these incidents along the way that shifted my direction in my life to where I ended up putting a perfectly good job that would have seen me end up with a very nice house and a good life to do this, to try to stop the immoral, unjustified attempt to prohibit cannabis, and now to overregulate it and profit on it at the expense of the poor and the sick and the struggling in Canada and around the world. This has become something that I had to do because of who I am as a person and what the world presented to me, as a situation. So I should sue somebody. I deserve some reparations. I don't want it from you taxpayers, don't worry.
No.
I'd like to get it out of the personal hides of the previous prime ministers and justice ministers, if it's okay. I don't know where it is and where it comes from, and I'm obviously sort of semi-joking because I don't ever expect it. But if truth were to win out and if justice was to be a thing, then absolutely myself and so many others deserve compensation for the hell that we've been put through and the changes in our lives that were detrimental to us as a result of government policy surrounding cannabis and prohibition and now overregulation. So there's certainly a case to be made. I really hope it gets made one day. I'm not sure who would pay for it. I would be happy if it happened symbolically. If they said, we're sorry first, in a very profound way. They need to apologize and admit that they were very wrong about this. And as for corruption, well, I guess just say you're sorry.
Look how long it took them to do reconciliation, so you think we
still
really
don't
have any
have
hope? Right.
I don't know if I have hope for that or not. I hope I can have hope if that's a thing. Hope for hope.
Yeah.
Hope for hope's
Hope
sake.
for other things.
Well, I hope for a lot of things,
Well,
and
I
I
hope
think
you listens too, but
I think there's
6
reason
years.
for hope.
Yeah.
But I have to recognize for my own personal self, that's my opinion, and I'm an optimistic.
Yeah.
I'm optimistic. I'm an optimist.
Yeah. So
I'm having another puff.
Yeah. So with
I really
hope,
need to
there has be
focus at this
disappointment too, right? The opposite, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I've learned that.
Yeah.
With optimism comes disappointment in many cases.
Yeah, because we have to have that opposite just by having that one word, hope.
And then again, for me, it's all about how you look at it.
Yeah.
It is,
You can either focus on the opposite or you can focus on the hope.
So my mother is a great lesson in humanity going on right now. A character study. She will be 90 years old in 1 week, Thursday.
Yeah.
90.
9 days and 90.
2 years ago, or somewhere along the line, early into the last 2 years, she rapidly lost what memories she had left. She was functioning okay a couple of years ago, but her memory was fading about, short-term stuff. We had to disconnect the stove. And then she started to remember that she had forgotten about what happened to her husband and the house and all these things. And she had a couple of nights of panic of it. We moved her into full care across the street there. And like I say, for the last couple of years, she's rapidly gone into a weird form of dementia, but I don't know what dementia is. I've never had to deal with it myself personally before. Her form of dementia is that she is herself. She is who she always was without her memories in this moment that she's in. And she will use the habits and behaviors and mannerisms that she always has. She will bring into it the politeness that she was taught and the ways that she has of dealing with whatever it is that's on the table in front of her, or reading the signs around her and commenting on things. She is herself. But she loses all memory of what's going on within 5 seconds. 5 seconds might be giving her too much.
Right. Really? Eh? It's all gone.
It's all gone.
Wow.
If you ask her immediately what she just said, she won't be able to tell you.
Wow.
And if you ask her anything that had happened before that, even what she just ate 5 seconds or 10 seconds, she won't be able to tell you.
Yeah, wow.
So it's interesting, really.
Yeah. How the brain won't remember it. That maybe that section shut down.
So I'm in a cab, and I had just come back from seeing her the night before, and talking to the cab driver about it briefly. I said, my mom's having this go on, and he says, well, you are not your memories. I had to think about that for a minute, because you are a lot.
We are not your memories?
You are not your memories. He says, you are not your memories.
Okay.
You are a separate you. He said, when you were born into this world, you have no memories. Or imagine a time when you have no memories, in the womb or wherever it is, but you are still you.
Yeah.
And when you're born there, you're a different personality than the brother or sister that was spit out, before or after you. You are you. And he said, when your mother, is in her final days, she will still be her, even if she has no memories of what it is.
She'll still be her.
She will still be her.
Oh, I see what
and I
you're
thought that was an interesting concept there.
Yeah.
Because your memories do shape a lot of how you behave. Maybe who you are, I'm sure, to some degree. And I'm sure those experiences, not so much the memories, although the memories of the experiences, whatever, will shape a person's being to a degree. Although I'll tell you, the studies on twins separated from birth, having gone through extremely different life circumstances, and how identical their days are, their mannerisms are, their choices are, all of those sorts of things. Get out of the garbage. Chicken bones in there. It's really eerie.
Yeah.
It's really, really eerie.
It is.
So, I don't know how much your experiences shape who you are. They certainly shape your wisdom in making decisions.
They shape us.
But the core person is still the core person.
Yeah. You're still that soul.
Yeah.
Your soul's not.
And if I hadn't had to fight the government about a stupid, well, it's stupid from all observations. This is what everybody that comes into activism, one of their first takes on it is, well, this makes no sense.
I know.
Well, but logically, this should be the case, shouldn't it? Like, if they really cared about this, then they would do that, not this, right? You have to understand prohibition and overregulation is a logic-free area. Yeah. Logic is not involved, profiteering is.
No, and what they would be looking at, we have to tell the people that we were lying. So if we do that, then what are they going to think about what we've said before?
Oh, well, we all know government lies now.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, that's why they're not coming forward.
I know.
And they irradiate it so that you don't get no health benefit from it. You can smoke it, go ahead, but we're going to put some irradiation into it for you.
You can't deny
You can't say that it's been good for you. Right?
Well, that would be involved in studies that they would do on the cannabis that they're growing, and if you were only allowed to use irradiated cannabis in those studies, I'm sure that you would find a decreased amount of medical value in cannabis. Yeah. And that may be part of what's going on.
That proves
in
fact,
I'm pretty sure that any research institute that's got government approval to do some sort of investigation on cannabis and its medical value would be forced to use cannabis coming from these licensed producers.
But
so, there is that for sure.
Because if it's a health study, they don't want you getting sick, so they want to make sure all the microbes are dead. Yeah. Okay, you see what I'm saying, right? No matter
stupidity, folks.
You gotta get those microbes, man.
This is the theme of this show on the 6th year anniversary of demonstrating repeatedly the value of cannabis for the opioid epidemic and other things. This show is about stupidity. This is a stupid cake. It's too dry. It's not the cake we should have.
No.
You could have got me a cake. That's what you said right away.
Yeah.
If I'd have known you wanted a cake, I would have got you a cake. You would have got me a nice cake.
We would have
had a nice cake.
We had a nice cake.
We would have had balloons. We would have had people here. We would have been celebrating. We did some of that for number 5.
Yes, remember we had the shape.
But now it's too stupid to do it again.
Okay.
Now it's like, what the hell's going on here? Because between 5 and 6, now we've been raided by the police, charged, we're being brought before the court, and Health Canada still says our application after almost 2.5 years is under review. This is just stupid.
Yeah.
This is just stupid. I'm sick of stupid. We'll see what
You
happens.
guys keep fighting. Can't let stupid win.
No,
Right?
and that's
Yeah.
kind of the point, you
Yeah,
know? I mean,
yeah.
for me, it's
Can't
kind of
let
the point.
stupid win, right?
Can't let stupid
I don't know when I
win.
did that.
Well, and I've made that point before.
Yeah.
You know, I've been working on this for a long time. We did some good things to educate the public about how wrong prohibition was. Prohibition results in a whole bunch of bad things and not much good.
No.
Prohibition increases the demand of whatever it is that you're trying to prohibit as a government. That demand will be met by a supply, because that's a real law that you don't get to muck with. If there's a demand, there will be a supply. The supply is compromised of whatever it is if it's an illegal marketplace, because there aren't any of the government regulations and checks that might be involved in something, especially if something is of some danger, if it's not used properly and what have you. Prohibition results in a compromised supply handled in the underground in unregulated ways, with an increased usage of those particular items instead of a decrease. If the government's position is that they want to decrease problematic drug use, then prohibition provides the opposite.
Yeah.
It is
Just
extremely
push it down
expensive.
on the ground. Yeah.
It has a whole bunch of unintended consequences. It brings disrespect to police and governments and all the rest of that. It lures young people into crime. It makes crimes out of things that are not crimes. Brands all, I mean, I could go, we have gone on and on and on about just how ludicrous it ever was
Yeah.
to use the criminal law and say people can't have this substance. And the reason for it was what? Because they wanted to, use something against a migrant population in the southern states that they had some issues with. So they're going to criminalize a plant that they use regularly, and that's going to do something about that. But oh yeah, by the way, that plant is also part of the American pharmacopoeia to a large extent, and criminalizing that plant is going to mean that, look, there's opportunity for other business ventures.
Yeah.
And there's the Rockefellers with their patents on synthesized plants and other types of things they can press into pills, and all this history of all this stuff. It's long, long time overdue that they stop the nonsense. But you're right, if they do, they're going to have to say, yeah, well, I guess we were part of a big lying machine that took advantage of poor people, caused a lot of death and mayhem and money.
Over a plant.
Over a plan. Well, no, over money, really.
Yeah, money.
Money and control.
Yeah.
It's the same as anything else in this world.
Right?
It's about money and control.
Yeah.
So, and my issue too, it's not just about this plant. It's not about access to this plant. It's about freedom in general. It's about the bigger picture here. And all of this is very symptomatic of the bigger picture. And the bigger picture is that we're in trouble, folks.
Yeah. We are.
We're in a lot of trouble here. As, we had a point in time, none of us remember, but we've been told about it a couple hundred years ago, whatever. Peoples revolted against governments that were oppressive. They moved into a new land. In the case of here in Canada, we were discovered by people from Britain more than just occupied by people who were unhappy with the British system, and brought with them common law that we then tried to translate into what's going on here. We had a new form of democracy, blah, 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 blah. Maybe when all of that was happening, it was a dynamic place to live politically in the world as a person in the know of how, the restructuring of societies was taking place, and we were going to have public servants instead of dictators and pharaohs and tyrants and kings, and that there was going to be a way of electing people into positions of speaking on behalf of those that elected them, and all of this stuff that seemed like such a good idea, and maybe was, if it was done in ethical ways by moral people that weren't greedy and having hidden agendas on control,
Yeah.
But of course that's going to be the case. You're actually wresting power away from those that think they get power because their blood is a different color, or they're born into a different family line, or they just deserve it because they're rich or whatever. And this system gave some hope, I think, in my interpretation of it, my analysis of it, because I'm only just a young boy back in the 50s, and so in the 60s, and watching this as I've grown up and trying to get a handle on what it was like and what it was all about. There was there was some hope for democracy and freedom back in those days. And you listen, and I listened to the speeches done by the prime ministerial candidates here in Canada, but also in the United States, as they would give, very, very good speaks about freedom and rights and, for the people and all the rest of it. And now it's devolved, and I've watched it devolve over these years. Greed, corruption, influence, and policy, government policy, legislations that keep coming up year after year, government after government. There's more and more layers of laws and rules and things, and all of it to benefit the few and to tax the many, and worse than that, of course. So anyway, that's what's going on. It sucks.
It does. It's not.
So
fair.
our friendly little pot TV show that was, going to show legalization come about and going to show us get licenses for the CSP and establish low barrier access to community cannabis stores, has along with it all devolved into a show about the corruption of government and how ridiculous and stupid it is that we can't seem to get the support that we've demonstrated we deserve so clearly here. And here we are. So what else should we do?
Well, Mary's watching us.
Well, hi, Mary.
Hi, Mary. Hope you're doing well.
So Mary allows me to talk a little bit about history. This is the 6th anniversary, or completion of the 6th year, the start of the 7th year.
Yeah.
Mary was a huge part of the CSP here in Vancouver. This all started in Vancouver. It started because about 18 years ago, I gained personal knowledge of the ability of high-dose edibles to get people off the hard drugs. So 7 years ago, when the opioid crisis hit, it became incumbent on me. Having that knowledge, it makes me responsible to try to do something about that. And so I did try to do something about that as best I could. And of course, the best thing to do is to make high-dose edibles as easily available as possible. And that became the mantra. And I took that to VANDU, the Vancouver Area Network of Drug Users, and I got unanimous support from their board to move forward with the project, to use them as a collaborator with space and time, and that I could come there and dispense high-dose edibles in whatever way worked. So from there, we just did that. That's what you got to do, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I had already told City Council and Vancouver Police what we were going to do, and then I had enough donations, and we just started doing it. And it worked out to every Saturday for a full year, handing out hundreds of care packs to people.
Yep.
And like I said, this was a demonstration.
And you had people rolling joints for all those people.
That was fun.
That was the Holy Rollers.
I like that.
I remember the Holy Rollers sitting around the table, big pile of weed, they're all rolling joints.
So here's why I like that. So I got to be the guy that got the weed together after Mark Cloakide wasn't available one year.
Yeah.
Cloakide.
Yeah.
Both. It's got to be both. It's got to be both.
Yeah.
I mean him well either way.
What's Mark
Cloakide.
yeah.
Mark Cloakide. He was great for the first few years of putting 420 together that I was involved, and Cannabis Day and the rest, in supplying some pretty suspect shake, but we got it rolled up. We got it rolled up and we got it passed out every time we went there, and because of that, we more than doubled our crowd every year.
Yeah.
After a few years of that, 1 year Mark wasn't available to help us with that. There was dispensaries that had popped up around Vancouver. I had a personal relationship with many of them. And so that they were very, we used it for promotion of them as well. It was a win-win situation. And so we managed to have a whole bunch of joints that we got rolled up and passed out. And it fell on me because I'm not a genius. I'm not an accountant. I'm not, super in on all the stuff going on in the world. So they relegated me to having the weed rolled up for 420.
Yeah. And then...
So that was my job, was gather a bunch of people together and have rolling parties as often as we could leading up to 420 and Cannabis Day and the Global March, and roll as much of this as we could and get it thrown out to the crowd on time. It was an awesome responsibility to have. And so fast forward now, it's 2009, and I get approached by VANDU about putting together a green project with them where we would try to make cannabis available to the hard drug users.
Yep.
A real prelude to the CSP. So I set up an office within their space. We had jars of weed with names on it for people to choose from. We had a disclaimer that people would sign
Yeah.
that would take control of their own medical autonomy in respect to what they were choosing to put into their bodies. We had some lawyers look at it, and we thought it would stand the test of legalities. And so for 2 weeks and a little more, I had this office, and people would come in and out, and they'd walk out with cannabis, and it was all working well. And then at that point, it was like, nope, you got to shut her down and stop. The lawyers had been threatened, I guess, by Health Canada or whatever, or the lawyers were saying that if Vandu continued to do that, then they would have their funding pulled.
Oh.
So,
Oh,
yeah, 'cause
wow.
they rely on government dollars to
Yeah,
operate,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So, sorry, you can't do this anymore. And at that point, I had people rolling joints
Yeah.
in the thing there. So when I had to stop, as soon as it was like, okay, now we're going to do a collaboration with you on this CSP thing, as soon as I got to do that, one of the first things I did was set up a table
Start rolling again.
and start rolling again. Yeah.
Nice.
And I loved that display, like you said. It was really cool that people that were coming in and seeing what the hell's going on here. Well, there's a table with a bunch of weed being rolled up, and here's another table with a whole bunch of obvious cannabis edibles and brownies and cookies and stuff being put into packages and handed out to people. It was a wonderful thing. And so that was the CSP's beginning. And for a year we did every Saturday, and then for the next 2.5 years we did it every Thursdays and Sundays. After we were a year into the Thursdays and Sundays, so now we're 2.5 years, or a year and a half into that. Sorry, we're 2.5 years in since I started the project. We got notice that there was a motion being put forward by City Council to support what we were doing because of what we were doing.
Yeah.
And it passed unanimously. The language they used was about low barrier access, and that became our new theme.
Yeah.
Prior to that, our theme was legalize and regulate. Mm-hmm. That's what we preached from the stages. We had wristbands that said legalize and regulate, and that's what we thought we wanted, was to have cannabis, just make it legal and just regulate it like anything else, is what we thought. But we didn't say like anything else. We just said legalize and regulate.
Yeah.
So when we pushed so hard that Trudeau recognized that he could bring the Liberal Party out of the ashes back into prominence and perhaps even win the election, and in fact win with a majority government on a platform of legalizing weed. That was because of the good work of the activists across Canada that educated the public and exposed the fact that this is a huge waste of tax dollars in the first place. You're not winning anything because the use of cannabis is continuing to increase all the time. And there's no reason to be using the criminal law against cannabis in a world where you have commercial tobacco and alcohol and the rest of it.
Cannabis is good for you.
Absolutely, it's good for you, and especially if used properly, and difficult to be not good for you and to not use properly. So because of all the great work of the people who got together and did something about the fact that this is wrong and it needs to end, and we have to stop getting our friends and our family arrested for stupid marijuana charges and all that entails. And so he ran on a platform of legalizing marijuana and won with a majority government. Yeah. And then they come in and what do? They legalize and regulate.
Yep. They
legalized and regulate. They must have had some interesting meetings, sitting down, asking us what that meant.
Freddie Pritchard knew it.
And coming up with what they could do. Yeah, Freddie Pritchard was awesome.
Yeah.
And I never thought he was wrong. I just didn't think it would play out the way that he said it would. And in some ways it has, and in some ways it hasn't.
Yeah.
I'm still here.
Yeah.
Budway is still there.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of, the medicinal cannabis dispensary is still there.
Yeah.
They have not wiped out all access to cannabis, but Freddie, you were basically right about what their attempts were going to be, and I didn't disagree with you on their attempts. They legalized and regulated. Yeah. They made it so that it was legal to have weed in most provinces, but not all, and not necessarily any, depending on what the provinces decide to do for themselves. Mm-hmm. You can grow some weed for yourself.
Yeah.
So if you have weed that you grew for yourself legally, you can have weed. If you have weed in Canada, you just have a bag of weed. If you have this much weed in Canada, you will not probably get a criminal record unless you punched somebody to get it,
Today when I was getting insurance, I was sitting beside this other lady. She's for getting health insurance. one of the questions from the insurance lady was, do you have more than 4 cannabis plants growing in on your property
Is
or
that
in
right?
your house? I was like, what?
Wow.
They're asking if you're growing cannabis plants. She's trying to get a quote on house insurance.
So
right?
that is extremely discriminatory
That's crazy.
against people that would legally have more than 4 plants.
Yeah.
They're trying to identify those people.
And charge you
They're
more.
going to use growing plants against you for getting your insurance.
Yeah.
Because the insurance companies and the big banks and all these corporations are all in bed together. They've all been profiting on prohibition since the beginning. They were the ones that made it so difficult to win this war.
Wow.
And there they are, still at it, still trying to identify
that was
who's
a
who.
surprise question I heard. Mary is saying that William is dealing with some personal things and he's going to have to shut down in London, but hopefully he'll be back up in a couple of months.
Wow.
Yes.
Well, that's bad news.
Yes. But then going out of the box with one taking a break, you have the new one. Right?
We do have
Right, so
Serena.
with the suspension of one, there is another one, so we're still helping people, right? Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure it's going to increase, not decrease overall. There's always ups and downs. There's times when we've had a limited supply of things for people, and there's times when we have an abundance. We'll see what evolves out of that with what William has been doing. And what we're talking about here is another chapter of the CSP.
Yeah, on Monday.
You know, as I'm reviewing the history a little bit here on this 6th anniversary, we're going to get to the other things that have happened along those lines as well. In fact, Mary is the one who kind of prompted this as well. But we have a chapter in London, Ontario at this point, and it looks like, based on what Mary's saying there, it's going to shut down for as much as 2 months.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens with that. If I'd have tried to shut down here, I think,
Wow.
other people would have demanded that there be something, right?
Yeah, somebody else could
So
take over for a while.
we'll see what happens with that. Many of the people that were lining up to get what William has been providing in London, that Mary started back there, they may now well go to their healthcare providers, to their local politicians, maybe to the media. Maybe there will be a bit of an uprising about we need this service, and maybe there will be another way for it to begin operating again in much less than 2 months. I'd be really sad to see that London, Ontario doesn't have the CSP service that it's had for a couple of years now.
has his personal problems taken care of.
Yeah, we'll
It
get a
works
hold
out
of
for now.
William and
Yeah.
find out what's
Yeah,
going on there
find
and
out. Right.
see if there's anything to be done. If you're in that area, here's an opportunity for you to do something awesome.
Continue the
and,
work that's
continue
already
the work
there.
that started
You
there.
don't have to attract people because they're already there. So
Yeah.
just keep going.
And I'm sure there's other resources that already in place there as well to make it work. So if you've been sitting in the wings a little bit and thinking that it's looked after there, maybe there's an opportunity here for someone like yourself that can maybe do a
Like
good
I
job
just posted a little while ago, selfless acts are good for your mental health.
They are.
Yeah, selfless
Absolutely,
acts.
100%.
Right? They are, right? Just get out there. You wouldn't believe how good it is. It really does lift you up.
You get one shot at life, right?
Mm-hmm.
And your life is what it's going to be, and it's going to be a series of choices during a timeline that's going to lead in directions here or there, and all you have in the end is your experiences. Maybe in the end, like my mother, she doesn't have her memories, so maybe she's lost her experiences. Although I'm not sure that's 100% true.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't count on being 90 years old and not having a memory anymore. You count on having a long, productive life where you have your facilities, till the end, and you want to fill that life with good experiences and good feelings. That's all you really have available to you. And there's an illusion that's being foisted upon us all the time about where those good feelings come from, And really where they come from more than anywhere else is when you're selfless and giving of what you have to contribute to the environment and the world around you. The illusion that they present is that your feelings are going to be better if you get things, and it doesn't matter how you get them. Be ruthless, be competitive, do whatever it takes. Don't worry about hurting the little guy on your way, stepping on their fingers up the ladder, and all of those different things that our society tries to foist upon us, in my opinion, where the true living is to become the best self you can be, with honing the skills that you're naturally attuned to, because we all have these natural talents and things that are different from each other's. Find those, love those, expand those, and use those to be that that cog in the wheel,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
not just somebody taking up space, not just something taking up energy, but something that actually provides a value, you know, throughout your life. And the trick to that, or the cool thing about the magic, I don't know what it is. It's life. It's what it is. It's just, these are the truths that I've come to understand. These are my opinions, but these are my experiences. They're more than just my opinions. And that is that your life is rich.
Yeah.
Without riches.
Yeah.
But your life will be enriched with riches as well in most cases. That someone who really just uses the best that they can be to do the best that they can do gets the best of what there is back. It's
Yeah.
like an echo chamber that we live in.
Yeah.
And things come back to us based on what we put out there.
There's a lady in San Francisco who's 115 years old, and she said she's around because of positivity, and she doesn't have any negative people around her, and she's a vegetarian also too.
So
115 years
115.
old. Yeah, and she's laughing and talking and everything right on in San Francisco.
So here's the thing with my mom. This character study of this person who's now lost their memories.
Yeah.
Is that it's her disposition
Yeah.
that matters about things. It's how she feels about the things that are going on with her. In that moment when she's herself but has no memories, she's aware she has no memories.
Yeah.
You know, she can say, I'm so confused, I don't remember anything. And she'll tell you that in moment by moment by moment, because
Yeah.
that's what's going on for her. It's
Yeah.
real for her in the moment that she's in, and in the moment that she's in, she is herself.
Mm-hmm.
But she doesn't take with her those other memories. But also, someone was talking to me about marriage. The question was, if you knew somebody had done this before they got married, had worked in this sex trade or whatever before they got married, do you think the person that married them should be okay with that? Well, I think I'm wise.
Yeah.
I think I was wise early in my life. I don't think everybody's like this. I mean, there's a lot of jealousy and a lot of judgment and a lot of oh my gods or whatever with things. But everybody does the best they can with who they are.
Yep.
They're led into circumstances by circumstance and by the energies and by just being. And we all do things that maybe we would not do a second time around.
Yeah.
We've all hopefully had sex with at least a
Hopefully.
few different people.
Over here.
You know, in some sort of, you know, loving long-term or other relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Is any of that to be held against a person? I don't think so. I don't think there should be any thought to that.
Nope.
I think that's all about who you are in this moment and who you are going to be as you move forward. I mean, people are who they are, and you may come to like or dislike who they are.
Yeah.
But, you know, as far as that sort of thing goes, if you can forget stuff, that's the best, man. That's what I'm trying to say.
don't
Is
wanna
that, you know,
maybe
there's
forget-
things you don't want to remember, shit.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. But
We're
I want,
talking
there's
about
a lot of
forgetting
stuff
how to
I
talk.
would like to remember too, right? So,
Oh, 100%.
right,
You know,
the
I'm-
birth of your child, first day of
Yeah, I'm
school,
talking about, you know,
getting
like, not remembering the bad
married,
stuff, too.
You know, like that nice trip that you made to a mountain.
100%. You
yeah,
want to fill
yeah.
your life with experiences, and you want to hope that you have grasp of them, you know, throughout whatever life is. And who knows, maybe in an afterlife. I have no idea.
Yeah.
I can't say.
Well,
I thought I could say a while back. I was quite
what
an
I tell
atheist.
people is, we'll know when we get there.
I guess. I guess.
We'll know when we get there,
Or we
right?
won't. That'll be the trick. You'll
no.
either know or you won't.
We will know.
Well, no, for me that's the thing. I'll either know or I won't.
Well-
Because if I know, like, wow, this is what's next, eh? When
Right.
I fly off into Neptune or whatever. Yeah, who knows? Or there will be nothingness, which is what I've believed for most of my life.
No.
Is that, well,
You're going to join the other auras that are around everything else. So you're going to become part of
me,
the energy again.
in that case, I mean, we could go on this journey.
Yeah.
Me and all of the living organisms on this planet.
Yes, exactly, because they all have that an aura and
There you
energy
go.
and those places. But we just
That was
can't-
my conversation
we
with
can't
the-
see it when I look at you, but there are X-rays that show that it is
Oh,
there.
I know this.
Right?
I know it's there.
And when you die, it's released from that.
I don't
capsule
doubt any
you're
of that.
in, and you join again.
Well, where I have speculation is the word "you,"
Wait, well,
where
you're-
you join something.
You is your
You know,
your
an
energy.
aura
It
leaves
doesn't have a
you,
name. It doesn't have a
but
name.
is that you, your aura? Does it take with it your experience and your memories and
But
who you
your-
are?
your aura might
Are
have a
you
different
conscious
name.
of all of this? You know, any of those things?
Yeah, but
You
no,
know,
we're
I
not
have-
conscious of it.
Well, right. So if I'm not conscious, it don't matter. You know,
Okay.
I would like to have a...
Oh, you mean afterwards?
Yeah.
Oh, well, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll know when we get there.
We'll know when you get there, or you won't.
Yeah.
Or you won't.
Yeah.
And if you don't, it's because it ain't.
I'm going with we'll know when we get there. I think it's better.
I've come a long way, and I've come from distance and then back again. I don't know what I know. I know I don't know a lot. But, with quantum mechanics, physics of the universe, as we're understanding things, or scratching the surface on trying to understand things, it all makes no sense whatsoever. It's all crazy as can be. It can be whatever, and I would not be surprised. And I could, close my eyes on this life and leave this body and be my whole complete person in some other realm and dimension and not be terribly surprised by it, because already very little makes sense with black holes and billions of light years of distance and time and all of these other things. There's so much of it. So I don't know, but I'm just trying to say that for most of my life I felt that if you squish an ant, that's the end of that ant. There's no ant heaven. He ain't going nowhere. He's not visiting with his other deceased family members, and has no knowledge of an afterlife or anything like that. And if that's true for that incredibly complex and intelligent organism called an ant, then that's got to be the truth for me too. But now I've come to the point where, well, not only might that be true for me, and might it also be true for an ant that nowhere, it's not just nothing. It could be else. I don't know. But right down on the cellular level to these incredible organisms that are just single-celled organisms who are able to recognize and flee from danger. Single-celled microscopic organisms that are running for their lives because of that one over there coming for them, or whatever it is, and they can smell it or sense it or something, or the will to survive, the circle of life, all of that. Is so incredible and amazing, and I don't know what the answer is about, once a life form ends. And I guess,
another one, this will show that where our auras are here for the human experience. Right?
Yeah. Maybe.
That our auras are on a journey, and this is one of the stops, right?
Yeah.
To learn how to be compassionate.
Or we're all in a matrix.
Love and all kinds of other stuff, right? And maybe war and death. And
we're laying in beds, in vats of liquid, having dreams, and you and I are in each other's dream, and we're not real at all.
I know. I keep seeing this sign. There's in Abbotsford. There's a chicken farm called the Matrix.
Yeah.
I wonder if they give them the red pills or the blue pills.
Yeah.
They're chickens.
Life is so.
But it keeps reminding you, Matrix.
So strange. Life is so strange. The whole idea of this universe full of matter that can go chemically to biological, and over billions of years evolve into. Oh my goodness!
I know. Yeah.
And the fabric of space. Space is a thing. It's not nothing. Although I always thought space was empty. I mean, to me, that was like the definition of space was nothing. A cube, isolated, nothing.
Yeah.
But apparently, it's a thing, and it's expanding.
Yeah.
And so these galaxies, not within the galaxies, they're not having the space expand like that, and then all those stars are not moving farther apart from each other. The galaxies themselves are moving farther and farther apart from each other because of the expansion of space, not because of the direction and speed that they're going. They are all going in directions and at speeds, but the fabric of space apparently is pushing everything apart, and the farther away from any point that you get, the faster the fabric of space is pushing things apart.
Oh, really?
How is that ever possible?
Well,
and it
space
continues on infinitely.
Infinitely, yeah.
I was going to say exponentially and infinitely at the same time. I'm trying to mix those two. So that at some distance away from us, that they don't think is very far, but it's probably 1 trillion light years away, and I don't know how you found that. That even the speed of the expansion of the fabric of space pushing galaxies apart exceeds the speed of light, but doesn't contradict the physics of not being able to go faster than the speed of light because the space is not anything. I don't know.
Maybe there's no gravity, maybe that's why.
Gravity also moves at the speed of light?
Yeah.
And so does time, apparently?
Yeah.
I don't understand any of these things. I think sometimes I think this is
it takes
designed.
60 seconds
Sometimes I think this is specifically designed for me not to be able to understand.
Yeah.
Like you said, there,
Yeah.
you're not supposed to know, right?
Just to go about living your life and let the science people to do that kind of thing.
Well, but I get to glimpse them.
Yeah.
You know? I get to pay a little bit of attention to what it is that they think they're discovering.
Yeah.
I want to know. I don't know why I
yeah.
want to know. It means nothing. Within 100 years, I'm going to be dust, and nobody will care, and I won't know, and nobody will know that I don't know. So what do I care? But for some reason, I got nothing better to do. I guess I spend a little bit of time, looking into what it is that they're discovering, and none of that makes any sense. Most of it doesn't make any sense, and most of it doesn't make any sense to the scientists as well. They really don't have answers about why a lot of things are happening that don't seem to make much sense at all.
Human too. Yeah, right.
Or did the civilizations millions of years ago on this planet of other humanoid type evolved creatures, did they understand things about the nature of this universe that we have lost a long time ago, and our scientists still haven't figured out about how to maybe use resonance to be able to move 70,000 ton rocks, 350 feet in the air, and chisel out, hard granite, or to have precision cuts like lasers and fit things together in obscure ways that mimic themselves all across the continents. I mean, wow. I know, eh? I get a little bit of time every evening, and I just spend some of it looking at a little bit of this stuff, trying to look at the good sources as best I can to figure it all out, but sometimes I wonder, is this all just an illusion, or are they just making all this shit up? Wow, I don't think so. I think the James Webb Telescope is up there actually gathering images of things that are billions of years old.
To a lot of us, as long as we get to ride the ride until the end of the ride, then
I'm happy.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Yeah,
as long as they don't kick us off before the end, then we're pretty much happy, right?
As long as you're not driving yourself nuts with these questions.
Yeah,
the whole thing is to try to stay sane and have some fun.
We don't need more nuts because our mental health facilities.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's helping any of my mental health issues. Me trying to figure out the nature of life in the universe
and stuff like that. So let's just keep everybody mentally healthy.
Yeah. And one man's mental health is another man's insanity.
It could be. You never know.
Don't let the government know. In fact, someone told me yesterday, I think, that you can get in trouble, you can be banned and disappeared or whatever it is these days that happens to people. Not disappeared, but they cancel you, right?
Yeah.
They basically you disappear out of any social networks or whatever. Just for suggesting that these megalithic structures around the world were created by some other humanoid intelligence before us, or maybe
we didn't do it.
And we can't do now.
There's one in the ocean too.
Of course there would be.
Yeah.
As oceans and land have switched places numerous times over the billions of years of this planet.
There's one and they dove down and they found it and everything. There's this big huge monolith down there. Yeah.
And the truth of it is, really, none of it matters. That's Well, I told you this before. I really only have two questions in life.
Yeah.
How can there be matter?
Yeah.
And how can that possibly matter?
Yeah.
And in the end, nothing matters.
Nothing matters.
The entropy and
you
dissolvement.
can't say nothing matters because as you've lived in your choices, they've made it matter to someone else or something else in the area. So it does matter. Right?
So when in another few billion years, when our sun starts to go nova and it encompasses the first three planets, including ours, and vaporizes us.
Yeah.
Will anything matter?
Will we be here?
Will we be here? If we haven't started colonizing other bodies of stuff out there in the universe that are going to be able to escape our sun's supernovae, which is very, very unlikely at all, if at all, will it matter? If that does happen, and humans that knew about us and mattered to them, if they continue on and colonize and build spaceships and go far distances and live, hopping from environment to environment, all this is none of that's ever going to happen, by the way. For as the universe continues to wind down, because it's winding down, right? All of this energy is changing and changing and changing, and it's all going to be at equilibrium.
There could be another meteor that could hit us.
Trillions and trillions and trillions and trillions of years from now, the universe will be at equilibrium.
Yeah.
There may be a few small black holes, or maybe it will be permeated by black holes. This is what they say, anyway, right?
We won't know.
So at that point in time,
it doesn't matter.
At that point in time, nothing matters, right? Nothing matters.
See?
Nothing matters. I'm not saying don't look after your sore foot. Of course you look after your
That
sore
matters.
foot. That matters.
Take care of your
I'm not talking
family.
about things that matter to
family,
you.
yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
they matter to you while they matter to you. The pursuit of knowledge with respect to the nature of life in the universe. Does any of that really matter? I don't know.
Well,
If it enhances your life, I guess it
I'm gonna
matters
say
to you.
yeah.
Stupid
Anyway,
cake.
let's go back to producing the show.
Stupid,
Happy 6th
stupid
anniversary. Let's
Happy
do
stupid anniversary.
Yeah, well, we're on number 7.
We're into 7 years.
7 is lucky.
I really hope it's a lucky
7,
year.
yeah, see, let's
I
see.
really
Let's just go for it. 7 is lucky.
It's going to be an amazing year. Well, actually,
7 and 8 are lucky
So,
too.
I was given a history, and I'm going to continue to do that. We've still got time here, and this show is about that. This is the 6th year end of the CSP. It's not the end of the CSP. It's just the end of the 6th year, and it's a stupid celebration because we should be celebrating and we're not. We should have a license and we don't. We should have other locations. We should have expanded the program. All these things should have happened, but they haven't, and all of it's due to corruption, which is stupid as hell. We need to stop that. We're going to call them on it as best we can. And so we've given you a little bit of the history to date of where we were there. And that was that there we were at Vandu, and it was 2.5 years into the program, and City Council passes a motion, Councillor Rebecca Bly passes a motion that they're going to support low barrier access. Yeah. And so we went and had a meeting with her, with Jody Emery, with the members of the Vandu board, the Green Cross, myself. And we talked about what we had been doing, or what I'd been doing with the program and there were people that were intrinsically involved, by the way, with what we were doing there as well. Jody and the Vandu board and Green Cross were all very closely involved with what we were doing at the CSP here. So we went and met with the city. We decided that the program should move indoors, that the city would support us in a storefront, and we should just go and find one. So it took about a year to put all that together. Time goes fast. I don't know, maybe it's just because I'm old. I don't know. If I was a younger man, but maybe would have got it done quicker. I'm not sure. But it went quickly for me, but it actually was about a year until we found a landlord that would rent to us was the biggest problem. Also had to come up with a business model that would work to be able to now move the CSP from just raising donations primarily of cannabis products, but also some cash as we would go to the different protests and 420s with a CSP booth and sell some things to raise some money. But now we were going to need money to pay for a storefront on a monthly basis along with utilities, and we were going to have to operate the store with some sort of paid staff. And so it took about a year to put all that together, and we found this space that we're in right now. And as per our discussions with the city, we opened up and then alerted the city that we had found a storefront and that we were open for business, and that they were going to send city staff and they were going to assess us, and we were going to, if we were meeting the needs of the neighborhood, and we were very confident that we knew the needs of the neighborhood better than anybody by that time, of course, that they would license us. But instead, city licensing came, a different department, unaware of anything to do with a city motion passed or us, simply involved their primary focus, by the way, had become cannabis dispensaries, legal and illegal. Yeah. The government in the city of Vancouver here, the municipal government, came up with a scheme to license the illegal dispensaries before legalization happened in Canada. So they, part of that licensing was first to take away several of the revenue streams from the dispensaries that were operating, all of them illegal, none of them able to get a license other than now this one that the city was offering. But if you could qualify, if you could eliminate the sale of edibles and minors and numerous other things, then they would give you a license from the city and you would have some protection in operating your business. But one of the things about that was that you had to pay over $30,000 to the city of Vancouver for a licensing fee, a non-returnable licensing fee.
And it didn't guarantee that you wouldn't get it either.
Well, that was the $3,000 non-refundable application fee.
Oh, the application.
But once you had paid the $30,000 for 1 year, and then you had to renew every year, that was the licensing fee that the city gets. Now, the city, of course, gets licensing fees from all the different businesses. Yep. That's how it pays its bills, for the most part, other than taxing ordinary people, too, in different ways. But the businesses is primarily where cities make their money. And so there's different levels of business licenses as you go. most of them are relatively cheap. It doesn't cost much to get a business license for some cheapies in
Mine's
the grocery store.
$148, so I can't imagine mission.
Okay, and back when the city was doing this is now 20, whatever it was, it was about $175 for a business license for a small pharmacy. So you could have like these small little drugstores that pop up in neighborhoods. That was about $175. The expensive ones were the massage parlors.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they had to pay about $8,000 a year.
Wow.
Because it's a sin tax. Because we shouldn't allow people to go and get massages that are in any way sexual. Whatever massage you're getting better not be sexual. If it is going to be sexual, well, now we're going to charge you a whole bunch of money. I guess because people are willing to pay.
Yeah.
Because there are a bunch of legal massage parlors, and the government takes about $8,000 a year in licensing fees on those. Those are big money makers for the government, right?
Yeah.
And then there's the casinos and the gambling places, and that can get as high as $13,000 here in the city of Vancouver. Other than that, that's it. Most other regular businesses, like Glenn said, they're under a couple $100. It doesn't take much.
Yeah.
Well, here we have cannabis dispensaries, $33,000 per year per business.
Yeah.
So you can just imagine that those businesses are the main focus of the licensing department. That's what their big job is now.
Lots of money.
And that's what the city said they needed all that money for, because we got to go and inspect these places and make sure they're not selling to minors or whatever it is that they might be doing wrong,
Yeah.
And so they did have a bunch of people running around checking on all these dispensary licenses, trying to get their $30,000 and trying to protect those that were paying the $30,000. That was the other insidious. Is that the right word?
I don't know.
I don't know either. Anyway, it wasn't very nice. It's corruption. It's like protection rackets and monopolies and all those sorts of things that are not good when you do this type of thing, when you prefer one over another, when it's a pay-to-play type of scheme. So those people that were willing to pay the $30,000, they were lobbying for and getting the city to enforce that there would be no dispensaries that didn't have these licenses, because they were in competition with these people that had to pay the $30,000. Well, you can understand how they felt about that they could have a store open up beside them, just not pay the fee, and still be able to sell cannabis and take away all their customers because it's better product at better prices, mostly because they don't have to pay a $30,000 fee to the city on top of which, now they got to buy somehow quality product and not want to cut corners and all the things that happen. That, you know what I mean? They just set up such a culture of corruption for all of that. And so that's what happened. We had the licensing department show up, say, you're not on the list, you're not paying us $33,000 a year, and you have to shut down. And right away, they're real quick at it when it's about money coming to them, right? Yeah. Right away, they sent a letter to myself and to the landlord here saying, cease and desist what you're doing, or we're going to seize your property, we're going to fine you. The threats were onerous for sure. And so, well, what do we need to do? I mean, I quickly went to the councillor that passed the motion, and she said, yes, well, I'm sorry, but that's right, we're going to have to wait for your license. That was in the same day, by the way, as all this came down. Wow. That we were going to get evicted if we didn't stop, or blah, blah, blah. That day is when I went to Rebecca Bly and asked her about this, and the next day she came back and said, we have to follow Canada's lead on the Cannabis Act, and before we can give you the license to allow you to operate your business, you're going to have to get it from the province. Yeah. Well, it turned out it wasn't the province, it was Health Canada. We did our very best. Yep, the lawyer that we had working with us at the time and myself put in a lot of effort to figure out what was the right thing to do, how to do it the right way, how to do it in a timely fashion. And we put together that application to apply for that license from Health Canada as quickly as we should have. And we were told by Health Canada, and we also put that application into the federal health ministry as well, Patty Haydu. And both of those departments the next day contacted us back. They had received our application, the Special Licensing and Exemption Division of Health Canada and the federal health minister, and that they would do their best to respond to us in a timely fashion. We also, I got to tell you, I mean, we put in an application along with that one for just a temporary exemption from the Cannabis Act so that we would not fear arrest during the time it was going to take to figure out those licenses. We expected that fairly quickly. We did not expect licenses fairly quickly. My lawyer at the time warned me of that. This is not going to be an easy process for them because of the form of legalization that they were foisting upon us, because of the Cannabis Act and what was built into that. What we were needing to do to meet this public health emergency was not going to be something they could easily and quickly do. Yeah. In his opinion, he was right. But we did feel that temporary exemption would be granted quickly because we had a 3.5-year track record by that time of doing the right thing here.
Doctors on your side.
Almost 4 years by the way, at that time. So yeah, we did all of that, but time went on. We were facing eviction at the end of October that year. We put our application in September 16th, but like I said, we had also asked for that temporary exemption that would have allowed us to stay in the store while that was all being worked out, but that didn't come through. By the end of October, neither did anything else come through, except that we were forcibly evicted from the store by the courts in British Columbia, who accused us of coming to court with unclean hands in suggesting that we be given an adjournment on the eviction while Health Canada figured out how to license what we had been doing so successfully for all of these years. In the mind of that one judge, we were there with unclean hands, and he treated us as if we were criminals, and he demanded that we stop what we were doing and get out. Well, he didn't say that. He said, you have to get out of the store. Yeah, he wasn't able to say, stop what you're doing. That's another point that I'll be making a little bit later on here as we move forward. But he did kick us out of the store and gave us 7 days to get out. Thankfully, the landlord is very friendly to what we're doing, loves what we're doing here, understands it, did not require us to leave, allowed us to continue to pay rent. After all, this is the address that is part of our application.
Just to use the store.
That would have been devastating to our application to have to actually give up possession of the building that we were using as our applicant. So we continued to pay rent on the building and have for all of these 2 years and 4 months, ever since we put our application, or since we got evicted, while we wait for Health Canada to give us permission. What we needed to do at that time was not stop the program. The people that we're dealing with are very vulnerable people. They're fragile, they're vulnerable, and they had learned to rely on us, and we could not just not be here. We could not reasonably relocate. We certainly could not go back to Vandu. We had no option in those 7 days as another storefront to use. To move to a different location would have been problematic in any case. We could have done it. We would have had to have people on the block here intercepting all the people coming and wondering, although those that got to the corner and would see that we weren't there anymore might just not come. But we had little choice but to stay in the area that we're in. Besides, this is the 100% right area to be in for a number of different reasons. So thankfully, Paul Hunt of the Green Cross had an RV that he was willing to sell us at a good price, and we put that RV right out in front and continued what we'd been doing out front without interruption of our program, so that the 250 members at that time of the people part of the CSP that were getting 420 milligrams of high-dose edibles for free every 4 days could continue to get that without interruption. We also continued to make available to those people that needed discreet dispensing. What we had learned during those 5.5 months in the store is that there's a whole population of people that are unidentified and want to stay that way. That they don't want to get a doctor, could not get a doctor in many cases in a country where over 5.5 million people can't get a family doctor. But they don't want a doctor, they can't have a doctor. They can't have a doctor know what's going on because the doctor in many cases was the one responsible for their addiction, and is the one who's now been put in responsible of taking them off of those pills, and is unsuccessful in doing that, and they can't tell the doctor that, and they're ashamed of that, and their family doesn't know that, and nobody knows that, and they just need discreet dispensing. They need to be able to come to a place with sunglasses and a hoodie, and as an adult in Canada, be able to purchase high-dose edibles just like you'd walk into a liquor store with sunglasses and hoodie, and maybe even a mask these days, and be able to buy whatever you want.
Now you wear a mask.
Now you wear a mask in a bank. Right at the time when you were talking about not having face coverings in banks, all of a sudden you must have a face covering in the bank.
Yeah. I know.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's what happened. We got an RV. Only 2 weeks into having the RV, the anti-vending unit comes and takes all our product away and tells me to take the RV away. I took it away for about an hour while I asked to talk to a senior police officer, and then brought it back, and we opened back up again, and we never missed a beat after that.
Yeah.
Other than being told by the VPD that we should stop doing what we're doing until we get licenses, at which point I informed them that there was no way I could do that, there's no way I would do that. And if I did do that, there'd be a bunch of other people carry on, and we wouldn't stop doing it anyway. So, you should let us keep doing this because we're doing the right thing. Thankfully, I talked to more than one VPD person. The one who told me to stop was probably some sort of a robot on the other end of the phone. I didn't get to meet her in person, and there was no eye contact. But the next two VPD that I told that story to really understood what we were doing here and appreciated the value of it. And we were left alone. We were left alone for well over a year and a half. We operated every day out of the RV. When the Blue Door closed down last March, it's been almost a year now, we started going 7 days a week from 6 days a week. We've been 7 days a week, 8 hours a day for almost a year now, and we were 6 days a week, 8 hours a day prior to that in this block. We've been here for, it's getting close to 3 years. In June, it'll be 3 years. We had no problems for a year and a half. The VPD are 1 block away, not even. The courthouse is even closer than that. They walk by with the sheriffs and the judges and the prosecutors and the lawyers all day long past our RV. Police drive by all day long. Police on the street stop and talk to me when they see me and ask me how it's going. A year and a half went by, no problems. Our success by that time, over the top. Like, the demonstration that we've been putting on for all that length of time, multiple hundreds of days worth, multiple tens of millions of milligrams of high-dose edibles dispensed into this neighborhood, hundreds of pounds of cannabis in the form of concentrates and other just flour put into this neighborhood with no negative repercussions at all, other than those people who will eat too much cannabis at one time. A year and a half into that with no interference, all of a sudden we're arrested. Charged. The medicine for people is seized. And now we're before the courts.
Any news on a date yet?
We'll be setting a date a week from Thursday. Apparently that date has been set, but I don't know what it is.
Okay.
It's going to be probably in 2024, apparently.
Yeah.
So much for 2023 being a lucky year, but that's not true at all. What will be lucky is if Health Canada finally realizes their mistakes and licenses us for what we're doing in the way that we're doing it, with maybe a few tweaks that would benefit the way that we're helping people, not benefit the rich people who want to capitalize on people. Maybe Health Canada will get it right in this year. We're going to put on a hell of a protest coming up.
Yep.
Can of Love, we didn't talk enough about it.
Yeah. We got that next week.
Posters. Where's my Can of Love poster?
Right here.
So we do have Can of Love coming up. It's 1 week away from today. We're going to be broadcasting from the Art Gallery in Vancouver here. It's the first time attempting an outdoor event in February in Vancouver.
Yeah.
Hopefully there'll be a lot of love in the room because it might be cold.
And no rain.
And
Please, no rain.
we'll see. The forecast does not look good, but they don't know what they're talking about a week away.
Yeah, we got 7 days.
They don't know yet.
It could change.
They always say possibility of rain just to cover their butts.
Do a power up.
Yeah. They don't want to tell you. They don't want to tell you a possibility of no rain because that gets people excited and then they sue them. But they always say possibility of rain when it's far out like that. They don't know yet. But in a few days we'll get a better handle on it. Hopefully the weather is good. But rain or shine, there's going to be a Can of Love event. It's going to be at the Art Gallery. There's going to be all kinds of vendors there. There's going to be lots and lots of different cannabis products. We'll be there with the Cannabis Substitution Program. You're going to be there with Canamatch.
Yeah.
I thought we were going to spend the day talking about Canamatch, really.
Really? Okay,
well, a little bit about it anyway.
We'll see what we can do.
Check it out.
What time is it starting? 10 a.m.
10 a.m.
Yeah, I couldn't even get here by 10 a.m.
I don't think I'm opening the microphone until noon.
Okay, good.
But I think people can go there. I think people can go there and set up and put up their booths, and you can go there and
I gotta bring my booth too.
Start your networking. You're gonna bring a booth? Not bring a booth?
I don't know. I gotta have a booth. I was just gonna go with my banner. I don't know.
I don't know. You make up your own mind.
Yeah.
It should be a relatively small event, you would think, but you never know.
We don't know.
You never know.
Yeah.
But it's going to be an event nonetheless. A loving cannabis event. What could be better than that? Celebrating Valentine's Day, which is great. And so come on out to Canada Love if you can. Check into that. I don't know if there's any vendor spots available. A few days ago, I think there was 3 left.
Oh, wow.
So,
there you go.
maybe, but it'll be fun anyway.
See that
5 music vendors, giveaway, all that kind of stuff.
All right.
And much more powerful than that is something else that we need to spend just a few minutes talking about, and that's 420.
Yep.
420 is coming up, and I'll tell you, the way things are looking here in Vancouver, it is going to be epic. There was a lot of confusion and concern in the early days of setting up for 420 here. There was announcements made that were not correct. Everything's on hold right now as we sort out the mess, and we are going to bring you, I think, 420 at Thornton Park. Looking like it. I'm still open to some discussions about a venue that may be better than that, but I'm not sure about that. There's so much going on is what the big issue is right now. That we've merged a bunch of things. We've separated some things out properly. We're going to have an old school, the way we always did, the same cast of characters to a large degree, with some new stuff as well, new speakers and other things as well, but old speakers too. And I'm going to host the thing, I believe. We're not, so much of it we don't know yet. And that's where we're at. But it won't be long.
Yeah.
It won't be long. I guarantee you, by next show, Canamatch, we're going to do the show from Canamatch. It's on Tuesday. Canna Love. Sorry, Canna Love. I got Canamatch on the brain because Canamatch is a match for Canna Love, isn't it? They couldn't. This was an event made for Canamatch. It really was.
We did one of these in Hamilton actually with Lamore.
Okay.
What's your first name? Yes.
Well, was it indoors or outdoors?
Indoors.
Indoors. It would have to be. And it was Valentine's?
In Hamilton with Paula at her place back then, and the lady who does the promoting and stuff. Her last name, I can't think of her first name. But yeah.
That's all right. In any case, I think I know what you're talking about.
Yes.
She's got some sort of a big media deal.
Yeah.
So, in any case, we're gonna do this. But after Canna Love at the Art Gallery, that's where we're going to do our show from next week.
Yeah.
I'm the MC of the show there, so we're going to make all of that work. At 4 o'clock when we start live streaming, the monologue that I normally do, I'll be doing from the stage as a speech to the crowd that's there. And then we'll move into the 420 session after that with Glenn, and then do our regular things. I'll probably single Cannabis as a precursor to 420 to see if I can belt that out or not. I did try to run through a little bit of vocals today. I think I'm going to be okay, even with the issues I've been having with my throat, to be able to pull off another year of Cannabis. So that means something to me. It doesn't mean nothing.
I heard you singing today. You were doing all right.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I did that on purpose.
Oh, Rocket Man.
I needed to know if I could, if I had the range.
Yeah.
Because
it's like riding a bike.
I'm not sounding the same as I talk when I have things going on. No, it's about this throat issue that I have. Maybe, they're just going to do it to me too. I'm going to have trouble belting that out one of these days.
Don't get
me going.
Don't get the throat issue.
Oh, man. Now I just hurt my throat. No, but the big one is 420.
Yeah.
And so we're putting it all together. There's like 77 days to go, which is not a lot, but it is some time. Because there's already been a lot of work done already behind the scenes on some potentials for what we were going to do here in Vancouver. To bring all those things together won't be as difficult as it might seem, because a lot of the work's already been done. We're not going to announce quite where, what yet, but we are going to announce that there is going to be an epic 420 in Vancouver. There's just no stopping that.
You remember the old days at the Art Gallery? We're hoping to do the same thing.
Well, and Sunset Beach as well, and but
Sunset
we're not at the beach.
Yeah,
we're not at the beach. So we're not doing any of that.
I'm hearing the city's going to put up a bunch of gates or
well, they basically tried to say no, we're not doing it there. And here's some other places that it looks like the city kind of wants a 420 to happen if it's done right. We're certainly not. We're not going to comply with no smoking and no vending. That is what 420 is, after all. That is the physical nature of our protest. We protest all day long, in between the fabulous music and entertainment, with speeches about the horrors of this government policy that's been going on for now 100 years here in Canada, and by 420 it'll be a couple months more into that. That's just horrible. We speak to that all the time. But the real demonstration that is 420 and Cannabis Day here in Vancouver, and has been from the beginning, is the consuming of cannabis, the selling of cannabis, and all of that is cannabis that is prohibited. The very breaking of those laws is the protest that is 420 and Cannabis Day for sure.
Yeah.
So stay tuned for what should be a return, and in fact probably a step forward from where we've been with 420s in the past. Although 2019 with Cypress Hill, we're not beating that, I don't think, yet.
Well,
we don't know.
It's over, right?
We don't know till it's over.
Exactly.
I do know this is going to be epic, and I do know that this is a return to a series of 420s in the future that will build on what we do here in Vancouver this time into even more epic shows to come.
We were able to bring the community together. Somebody reached out to me, and we put them together with Neil. And
I think there's two themes to this year's 420. For me, anyway.
Yeah.
One of them is my own that just sort of organically grew out of conversations that I've been having with the people that are organizing across the country. There are people literally not just from this country but other countries organizing and bringing their stuff to 420 in Vancouver here. But everybody deserves good weed.
Yeah.
That's my mantra. That's what I believe is what we should be preaching out there. That kind of embodies the low barrier access that we're talking about. Everybody deserves good weed. There's no reason why a person who doesn't have more than a couple bucks can't go get some good weed. There's no reason why a person who has no money can't go and get some good weed. There's no reason why the government should be controlling all the good weed. Everybody deserves good weed. That's that for that.
Yeah,
that's my mantra. But the other overlying umbrella theme of what this 420 in Vancouver is trying to accomplish is unity. It's bringing the community back together.
Yep.
It's the inclusion of the different facets of the community for the most part. Anybody from Vancouver will know what I mean by that, and there is an exception to every rule. But for the most part, for the big part, for the huge part, this is going to be a demonstration of love and the ability to work together and cooperate with each other, or at the very least ignore each other. But have a bunch of fun the way that we have all along through all of these 420s here in Vancouver over the last number of years. It really has been a historical event that needs to be continued.
Even the city wants us to do it.
Of course.
Yeah,
No Fun Vancouver would love to have a change to that name.
Yeah.
No Fun Hoover? I don't know how they say
No
that.
Fun Hoover.
No Fun Hoover. So yeah.
Anyways, I'm gonna get out of here.
You go ahead. I think we wrapped it all up pretty much.
Yeah,
you know?
we gotta go. You gonna go outside?
I didn't talk about how who is it? Tilray.
Oh yeah.
The big alcohol, cannabis, and pharmaceutical company that was born out of a cannabis company here in Canada, actually in Vancouver, British Columbia, or Victoria, British Columbia. That while they're not going to make their $4 billion a year targets. We have to really feel bad for them. If you've got an extra couple cents kicking around, I mean, everything helps in those kind of cases when you're really hitting bottom like that. That not going to reach your $4 billion target of taking money away from people. But they've had a few setbacks apparently. They were hoping for they wanted a 30% of the market share in Canada here. That's one of the things that they were also targeting that isn't going to happen. In fact, they've seen a 50% reduction in market share down to about 8%.
Yeah.
Of course, these are their statistics.
Those people have gone back to the gray market because the government market sucks.
There's a lot of reasons for why they're not reaching their targets, I think, What they blame slowness or inaction on the part of the German and U.S. government in legalizing rec sales. It's their fault that Tilray isn't monopolizing the marketplace even more than they are monopolizing.
Oh, wow.
Manipulating and monopolizing it.
We know that they're doing good in New Zealand because that's what...
we talked about that.
Yeah, Kaiser tells us, right?
So there was that. We didn't talk about that. We don't need to talk about that. I don't need to give those people any more publicity than they already get. But suffice to say, the poor people are really hurting for money, and if you got anything to send them, you probably should not, because they deserve every broke dollar that they got. And bear in mind, these things are not about the ownership and the upper people at Tilray. When they're not reaching their targets, when they're pulling out of different markets, and they are doing that, different countries they're pulling out of, shutting down their operations, that's not hurting any of those people financially whatsoever. They are completely insulated from all of that. The way the structure goes is that it's the people that buy the shares. They're the ones that foot the bill for all of these different things, and they're the ones that take the losses when the losses happen. Mm-hmm. So the poor, people that got suckered into thinking that legalization was going to be a good thing and Tilray was a place you should invest, well, now they're not hitting their targets, and it's those poor people that are suffering. But, they should learn their lessons too, and not try to invest in something that's going to maintain artificially high prices for a commodity that everybody deserves to have as freely and as inexpensively as they could possibly get. I don't think Jesus would approve of the inflated sale of his father's favorite plant.
No.
Anyway, thanks,
All
Glenn.
right.
Appreciate it a lot.
See you next week.
We'll see you next week.
From the art gallery.
Live from the art gallery.
All
Should
right.
be fun.
Yeah, it's gonna be.
We'll do a brief little walk outside. That's what I'm doing. We'll go see what's happening with the people in the RV. There is what we didn't mention yet, and I could do it outside as well. Just briefly, there is the Halifax CSP that is running strong and doing well over there. Chris Backer, although he struggles both with his own health and with getting enough donations and all the rest of it, as is always the case when you're trying to sustain a program of simply giving it away to those that line up and meeting the needs of the neighborhood that shows up. Chris with the Halifax East Coast CSP doing a magnificent job over there. I can't thank him enough. One of these days we're going to profile what they've done out there and have him on the show and all of that kind of stuff as well. And sad to hear that William Hicks is going to be having to go on a little bit of a suspension of the CSP in London, Ontario. We'll figure out what's going on with that and what we can do to help with that as well. Meanwhile, as Glenn pointed out, we have a new CSP online, the Surrey CSP. Actually been working not as an official CSP, but has been handing out food and weed products to the homeless and the people that would come there to get it in Surrey and the areas that need it for quite a while now. But approached me, wanted to use the banner of the CSP, and I don't think I own it. I think that if people do good things, they can use it.
The Weed Fairy's watching right now.
If people don't do good things with the logo and what we do with it, well, we would kind of disown them, I guess. But in the meantime, I'm very inclusive. I think that people that are passionate and wanting to do things for the right motives, we will certainly support that, and I do support that. And very happy to see, that they are. It's flattering to me that they would want to use our banners and our logos and our things like that. It tells me that we are doing things right, and we know we're doing things right here. But it is also good when you have other people joining you and wanting to do what you're doing there. So thank you so much for those people in Surrey that are looking after that, Rosie and Gary, and the volunteers and the donators that help them, and the volunteers and the donators that help all the CSPs and all the people that are doing things just in the same spirit as the CSP, which is to try to help people in this world. It's such an important and valuable thing to do, not just for the world that needs so much help, but for you as an individual. It'll enrich your life. If you're not already volunteering for things or doing things that allow your wonderful being to give back to the universe and to the world that you're involved in here, then I highly recommend that you do, as we talked a little bit about before, and I probably touched about the world that we all do as best we can to help out, and it's important for each individual to do their part as well, for how they feel about themselves as well. So at this point, we're going to go outside, do a little Vancouver weather report, and just quickly visit the RV there, and then wrap it up.
I'll put your sweater there for you.
Oh, thank you very much, Rod.
There you go. I was thinking ahead.
I wanted to just wear the Cannabis suit.
Well, I think it's a little bit cold in the wintertime for the union.
Because Canna Love and Canna Match.
I know.
If you're looking for love in all the wrong places, and you're a cannabis consumer, well, I highly recommend you join up with Canna Match, because Canna Match will help you find that which you need that includes somebody who's not scared of weed. Weed has been a problem for so long between the different people trying to get together, because some will and some won't, and some buy the stigma and some don't. And so they hide it from each other for the first date or two or whatever, and you don't want to say because you're not really sure. Well, this gets that right out of the way. This is Canna Match. This is, you get to find somebody who already likes cannabis and uses cannabis, and now you get to find out if you think they're also a cool person that you could snuggle with at night.
Yep.
So, and not only that, it's good for other things too. It's just to meet people. It can just be a friendly site as well as a dating site. You don't have to marry the person that you're meeting on there at all. You can if you like. That's fine.
Yeah.
But for those who just want a little bit of a hookup, that just want to have an afternoon session somewhere with somebody, maybe they're in a different part of town than they're used to, maybe they're in a different town altogether, and they don't know anybody, they need a hookup maybe they got their own, but they don't want to smoke alone, whatever. Canamatch.ca, that's the way to go. That is the thing that can bring that whole thing together and make it all work. You don't have to sit there at the outskirts of town and say, gee, I don't know anybody here. How am I going to find weed? Do I have to find the strip somewhere? Do I got to ask some sketchy person? Are they going to take me down a back alley? Or
no, they're going to drag you to a government store.
We're not even considering that option. But, for those who know, and they want, of course, non-irradiated, non-part of the cartel weed that uses its money to shut down the friends and families that are still carrying on here to fight the good fight and supply the needs. I mean, like I say, you don't have to sit on the outskirts of town and say, gee, I don't know anybody, where can I find somebody? You can just dial up Canamatch.ca. It also comes with an app. That probably makes it a lot easier.
Getting there, yeah.
Getting there.
Yeah.
And there you go, Canamatch.ca. Just in time
Neil.
for Valentine's Day. It's not too late. In the next 7 days through Canamatch.ca, you could probably find somebody to go to the art gallery with.
Well, there you go, yeah. Yeah. You'll never hear anybody say, hey, man, do you smoke weed? All right, hold on. Let me get the light on going here.
Well, the weather report weekly here in Vancouver is, it's been a nice day.
It's not too bad today.
We were expecting rain. That's what the forecast was, but hopefully similar on Canalove where they're forecasting rain. The rain really didn't materialize at all. The streets are relatively dry. We've had a little bit of precipitation, but all in all, a pretty decent day. It is still dark at this time of night, however, so that's my report. It's dark in Vancouver.
Yeah, and there's that nice new car right there. Oh, look at that! I wonder who's driving that.
Good evening. Fancy meeting you here.
Yeah, fancy meeting you here.
This is our new RV. I mean, I didn't tell the whole story because 6 years is a long time. I missed out the part about how we had to get a new RV because the one that we had got firebombed. That's a whole other story. You can check one of our previous episodes out for that. I also didn't talk about how the replacement RV that we got broken into 3 times, smashed my 3 entrances to the point where I had to get another RV, and now this is RV number 3 for the CSP for the last 2 years and 4 months. And we're really happy with this RV.
Yeah.
For the first time in all these years, the people inside can stand up. They don't feel like they have to crouch over all the time. We've got 2 really good working side windows here. There's Dexter looking all tall and proud when he realizes the camera's on him. Yeah. How's your day today, Dexter?
Great. Excellent.
Excellent. Just another average day in a great life.
Yep, absolutely.
Nice. We're coming in a minute here.
All right, we're going in. Gotta show the signs.
Well, I don't know if how you get in there, how much tightness you need, but we do like to tell the story as best we can. We're not trying to hide anything. We're not shy about what we're doing. In fact, we want people to know. We really wish the media would cover what we're doing here. We think it's a really, really huge story. I mean, this is a human interest story at the highest degree. When all day long we've got people coming here and thanking us for what we're doing, taking advantage of the services that we're providing, telling us about how it's helped them and the different ways that it's affected their lives in positive ways. This is something that the media needs to cover, especially with a public health emergency. This needs to be told, because the big thing is that cannabis high-dose edibles can get people through withdrawal. That's the hugest statement I can make in the simplest way I can say it. Withdrawal is the big barrier to getting people off of the hard drugs. The hard drugs are why people are dying, and the reason they're dying on hard drugs is because they can't stop. They would if they could, but they can't. And the reason they can't stop is it's too hard to get through withdrawal. The body screams for more of that drug, and they have to keep putting it back in there, and they fail most times they try. But with high-dose edibles, they can almost sleep their way through it. A few good strong brownies gets them right through the night. That's the reports we've been getting here for years. So that story needs to be told. It is not being told by mainstream media, just glimpses here and there. I guess they're trying to protect the Trudeau cartel. They don't want the story to get out, but we try to put it up there as best we can. And we try to let people know as they drive by. We be our own billboard, we be our own media. We want people to know high-dose cannabis edibles can get people off the hard drugs. That's a big story. So. Just clean the place up for me.
Thanks. You're noticing.
Hopefully I'm the only one. Well,
Where did Adam go?
that was a long walk.
I don't know.
Nobody went somewhere. So how's it been going in here, people? You want any screen time? Anybody want to say hi to the people at home?
Hi, George.
Hey,
What are you doing
Hi.
over there, George?
what's that?
What are you
Over
doing?
there.
Our lifeblood, 5 for 5.
The $5 bags.
Rolling. You've been famous for rolling most times, but he's right about that. The 5 for 5. That's 5 grams for $5. That has been very, very helpful to people. That's our number one.
Wish I was buying 5 grams or $5 when I was starting out.
Well, Rob Ford can have a buck of beer. I mean, why can't we have a buck a gram? You know,
Yeah.
and, even a buck a gram is expensive, but it's good quality cannabis that's been dried and cured, and so that I think it's worth $1 a gram, and especially when the people that we're helping with this otherwise are buying it at like $10 a gram. That's kind of been the going price in the neighborhood for a long time. And once we consistently had the $1 a gram, 5 grams for $5, that's the limit per person per day, so it's not abused, and so that we can continue to help everybody as best we can. That allows them to take that $20 bill that they would have otherwise put out on a couple of grams of weed and have $15 left over to use for food or whatever, and have enough weed with 5 grams instead of 2 grams, that in the morning when they wake up they've got some weed left over and they can start their day properly. And that's the big description of how it's going for these people. When we started doing this consistently about a year ago, we'd had it mostly but not consistently for the year and a half up to that point, but November last year marked a 1-year mark that we had never failed to have that deal for people. And that's what they would tell us most often is, now I've got weed in the morning left over, I got money left over, I can buy some food, it's just changing my life.
Yeah.
So very
That's
happy
good.
to be able to do that.
Wonder if there's take a look at it. The guy that makes them.
Got anything to say, George?
Yeah, do we have the vape batteries?
No, George is good. He's just doing his thing. He's shy most of the time. George
Yeah,
is the same.
he's being over there. He's doing his thing. Remember, we have to give him an edible so he's happy, George.
Dexter, on the other hand, he's busy right now, but he would happily take the mic and tell you all about stuff if he gets a chance. And one of these days we're going to interview him and find out his very unique story as to how he ended up working for here at the CSP and helping people at the window there the way that he is. It has been quite a journey. It's been 6 years now since all of this started, and that's what boggles my mind is that never ever would have thought it would have taken 6 years, and this is where we'd be with it. I projected ahead that by 6 years, by more than a half a decade, there would be CSPs all over the place. They would be storefronts. We would have this situation under control, because easy access to cannabis, especially high-dose edibles, will put a serious dent in this public health emergency that we've been trying to address here. If there were low barrier access cannabis stores on most corners throughout every downtown east side of the big cities in Canada and across North America, if it was easy for people to walk into those stores and get access to high-dose edibles instead of being forced, because of their pain and health issues, to seek out drugs that are available on the street, if it was easier for them to walk into a store comfortably and to get high-dose edibles instead of those things, then there would be a rush to do that once it caught on. And that would put a serious dent in this health emergency that we're dealing with. The government needs to understand that. They at least need to try that. They at least need to try to have a few stores. They at least need to come and see what we're doing. 6 years of demonstrating should be more than enough. We've demonstrated far more than we need to. We've been ignored far more than we should have. 6 years is far too long to have to run a demonstration successfully without having the government pay attention to what we're doing. Yes, they say our application is still under review. That's just a comment in an email sent out once at the beginning of the year. What are they doing with the rest of their time? Are they really reviewing our application? Are they really trying to figure out whether or not what we're doing is helping and whether or not they can help us do that? Is that what they're doing? Because it doesn't seem to be the case. If it was, I think we would have had more accomplished by now. But instead, all they do is ignore us, and all we do is keep demonstrating the truth. And I guess that's what we can do until maybe this is decided in the courts. But you can do something. We're doing all we can here to keep it going. you can do something. You can help tell people about it.
Oh, that's not
you can
good.
help
That's not good at
pave
all.
the way for understanding about high-dose edibles and how they are working here with the CSP. You can contact the people that are in positions of influence. You can contact the media, politicians. There is a role to play for everybody. We need as many people as we can to help us. If nobody acts and nothing happens, then this is what the future will be. Because those people that are making big dollars on the monopolization of the cannabis industry and the overregulation of the cannabis industry will continue to do that. Of course they will. If we don't do something to force them to allow access to the poor people, the sick people, the addicted people, the people that this legalization model that they have leaves out, then that's what we're going to get for a long time. They will continue to strengthen and entrench their models, which they are doing daily at this time, as more and more jurisdictions are understanding how they can capitalize on legalization and control the marketplace and continue making money off of prohibition as well at the same time. We can't settle for this. We need to be active about this. Get out and support whatever's going on that does that you can. Do your part to contribute. Come on out to Canna Love at the Art Gallery in Vancouver if you can. And on 420, April 20th, let's make some noise. Wherever you are, it's 420. Do something, say something, phone somebody, smoke a joint, and make a difference. With all of us, with most of us, we can probably get it done. If we don't, well, the generations to come are going to hate us, I'll tell you. So do your best. While you're doing that, look after yourself. That's the most important number one thing. Look after yourself and your family. Take care of the needs that you have. Make sure that all of those things are in place so that you can be a better person to go and speak to what's going on here and do your best to get things done. Take care of yourself, take care of your friends. Go about your life as if this is special and important. And most important, you know it. Have as much fun as you can. I'll see you next week.